So you're going to be opening up to the third tab again, exponents and order of operations in your notes booklet. We're going to get to the bottom half of this page in our booklet here. So we're going to be working with order of operations. Not sure your familiarity with this at all, but you've probably heard of it more as PEMDAS instead of order of operations. And basically, the whole point of order of operations is that we all follow the same method in solving different equations that have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division all mixed within the equation, so that we're not getting a bunch of different answers as our number. Because if you look at this example problem down here, not that we'll solve it yet, but I'm kind of looking at it as, all right, I could add this and get an answer. And then when a number is right next to a parenthesis like this, that means multiply. So I can multiply it by this number. And then once I multiply this answer times this, I then subtract 2 and I get my answer. But what PEMDAS, or order of operations, does is it gives us a specific order to follow when we're solving this, or a type of equation with mixed operations going on, so that we all solve it in the same way and get the same answer. Because there's tons of different answers that we could get with these mixed problems. So what we do is P is our first step. That means solve everything in parentheses first. So solve parentheses, okay? But sometimes, like in this problem down here, we actually kind of need to do step 2 before we can finish step 1, which means exponents. So parentheses and exponents, sometimes those can be mixed around, just like down in this problem here. Okay, so now exponents. We know that 3 squared, or 3 times 3, gives me 9. So what I am going to have you guys do is every time you solve one step, you're going to rewrite it with that new step solved down below, but you're still going to rewrite the whole problem underneath, and we're going to kind of make a little tree. It's going to get smaller and smaller as we solve it and go down as we figure out each little part. So now that I have figured out my exponents, I wrote my answer down here. So now I have 4 plus 2 times the group of 9 minus 2. So I simplified this from here to here. Now I can solve what's in parentheses. Well, what is 9 minus 2? That is 7. So I'm going to still put it in parentheses, but I'm going to put my 2 on the outside and have this here. Okay, so then after you've solved everything in parentheses, you now move on to multiply or divide. And now this is left to right. Left to right. And that will become a little more apparent as we go on here. But just remember, multiply or divide are your next step, left to right. So that means I need to multiply these two numbers together before I can add my 4 to anything. So now I have 4 plus, and 2 times 7 is 14. And you see how each step that I simplify or solve, my problem is getting narrower and narrower as I go down the page, and then add or subtract. That also means left to right again. Okay, it's not going to make sense for this problem, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, 4 plus 14, we get 18, and then we have our answer. So we could have solved this differently. Let's look at it. Now that we know what the right answer is, let's look at what we could have gotten if we didn't follow PEMDAS. So I could have added 4 plus 2 and got 6. So that means I could have done 6 times 9 minus 2 is 7. Okay, so this could have been a 6 out here if I added these two together first, and I would have gotten 42. And don't you agree that 42 and 18 are not anywhere near each other? That is why we have the order of operations, so that we all know how to solve a multi-operation problem in the same way and get the same answer. Now, the reason why I put left to right up here is if you have multiple multiply or divide or add or subtract, let's say you had an add and subtract here without the parentheses like in this problem, you wouldn't necessarily do this first or this first. You just follow it left to right, and we'll find another problem of that here shortly. Now, we had a little bit of extra space over here, so I'm going to give you a couple more practice problems over here. I want you to write down 34 plus 17 minus 5. Here is where left to right is going to come into play. So, don't you agree? We don't have parentheses, we don't have exponents, we don't even have multiply or divide. So we can skip all the way down to this step right here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we could do this first, or let's say these signs were switched. Let's say this was add and this was subtract. Just because add is first on this list does not mean you have to do add first. You follow it left to right. If they're all within the same level, meaning the same part of PEMDAS in the order of operations, you follow them left to right. You don't necessarily do add first and then subtract, or multiply first and then divide. You do them left to right. So if divide comes first and then multiply, you do that. If subtract comes first and then add, you do that. So let's add 34 plus 17. I know 34 plus 10 is 44. 44 plus 7 is 51. And notice how I simplified that, and I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem right underneath. I'm going to solve it one step at a time. 51 minus 5, 46 is my answer. Okay, let's do another one. That one was pretty easy. Let's do 42 plus 6 divided by 2. 42 plus 6 divided by 2. Now, following the order of operations, I have to do this divide first. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. And then I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem I still have in order, which is 42 plus 3. And then I'm going to simplify that down, add those two, and I get 45 as my answer. Let's do another one with parentheses. So we'll do 39 times 15 divided by 3 minus 16. Okay, so following order of operations, we have to simplify what's in the parentheses first. So we're going to start in the middle of the problem and work our way down. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I'm going to keep it in parentheses just so I know that we're multiplying these two together, and then we're subtracting 16. So my problem, I'm going to keep rewriting each part that I have left and each part that I've simplified so I don't forget a step and so I don't lose track of where I was. Now 39 times 5, I don't know that off the top of my head, so let's do that over here. 5 times 9 is 45, 5 times 3 is 15, so we got 195. 195 minus 16, 195 minus 16, can't do that. We have 9, 7, 179 as our answer. Okay, let's do one more over here, just because we have a little bit of room. We'll do 45 divided by 3 times 2 to the third power. So again, going through, we do our exponents first. 2 to the third, or 2 cubed, is 8. So I'm going to have 8 times 3. Ooh, here's what I mean by left to right, divided by 45. Okay, so multiply and divide. Technically, we write, just so that the acronym spells something out that's easy to remember, we write multiply first and then divide. However, these are on the same level. So that does not mean that we have to divide or multiply over here first and then divide. Because they're on the same level, we go left to right. So now I need to do 45 divided by 3 first, which is 15. And then I multiply 15 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8. So we have 120 as our answer. And this would be the same thing with add and subtract. If these were flip-flopped, this was add, this was subtract. We don't skip over to the add first just because it comes first in our acronym. They're all on the same level, so we go left to right from that. Okay? All right, so your homework is going to be attached to this assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will pause this just for a second if you need to finish up any of these notes. And good luck.